lot of people have been asking me how the law is changing, because I guess there are rumors right now that there are lots of RFEs. And I don't want to say that there hasn't been an uptick, but also there hasn't been a major uptick in RFEs. Like the RFEs that we're receiving are the same that we've always been receiving, just with small changes and trends over time. Like the beginning of the year, RFEs look slightly different than the mid-year RFEs that we're receiving, and that's very, very normal. There's usually threads or specific phrasing that is used in a bulk of RFEs in a given set of a few months, and then a different set of phrases is used the next few months. That's very, very normal. I am working on an RFE currently where the person has a very strong EB-1A. It really should be approved by the majority of officers. However, I definitely know there are a subset of officers who will not approve this kind of case. He is a senior engineering leader in AI. He's done some really cool things, has a high salary down, has original contributions down, and then has some of these other markers of recognition and significance, like judge role, some media, has done some publications. So it's a really well-rounded profile. It's just not, top professor or researcher, which is what some officers are really looking for. He got questioned on his high salary, which is very, very frustrating because his base salary is over $240,000 and his W-2 shows over $600,000 and his last W-2 was actually over $800,000. And he's looking at the salary numbers, looking at the argument, and looking at the RFE, and he's saying to me, I know colleagues who earn much less, and their high salary argument was accepted by USCIS. And he's asking, what am I doing differently, or what am I doing wrong? And it's a really hard thing to deal with, because the answer is he's not doing anything wrong. He's just stuck with an officer who doesn't want to acknowledge that he's earning a high salary. And I mean, you would think that any person would see a W-2 with $800,000 and say, obviously this person is highly compensated. Like, this is far above the first percent of people in the US. And we submitted salary reports showing that it was within the 90th percentile. The officer, though, wants us to find a published list of the top salaries in the industry and show that our client salary is among that list. It's a standard that isn't fair, and I don't think it's warranted according to the plain language of the law. Also, according to the regulatory history through the notice and comment period in the Federal Register, all of which is public record. But that's the standard that this officer is using. And so, it's a good case for litigation in the future, but litigation is tough for EB-1A clients. A lot of them would rather just refile and try to get a different and reasonable officer rather than going through the whole court system and having to document everything. So we'll see how it goes. I'm actually very optimistic about responding to this RFE. I do think that the case can be approved, but there's still a chance of denial, especially if this officer sticks to this mindset that the person needs to be recognized on this top list of a few people, rather than looking at percentages. In my opinion, the plain language of the law would reveal that it's not less than 1% that's eligible for EB-1A. It's at least the top percentage and probably more. The government has come up with memos and advice in the past that have said the top 25% in the field should qualify, or the top 10% in the field should qualify. So a lot of EB-1A is about coming up with a persuasive argument, trying to figure out what the officer will respond to, and then proceeding from there. Yeah, so if you make over $500,000 a year, you have a strong argument for high salary. It's just not guaranteed to be accepted. And yeah, I should note that salaries that are far less often get accepted, because it depends on the whole occupation and field analysis. I've claimed high salary for people who make 120, 130,000, and it can still go through. Not for software engineers. I will say, like, software engineers, you really do need to be making above 200,000, preferably above 220,000. But, a lot of other fields are much lower paid, and so you can make that argument as long as you have the good comparison evidence.